Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I will be showing you how to create a dynamic camera blur in Roblox. Um, what this will end up looking like in the end is something like this, where the player, um, as you can see when they move their mouse really fast, it creates a bit of a blur on the screen, and this doesn't work with positioning, so moving really fast in a car won't affect this so you won't have to worry about anything like that. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So first off, what you want to do is go down here to starter player, move over to starter player scripts, and press this little plus icon, and you'll see all these icons over here. You want to hit the local script, and as you can see, that will place a local script into here. We're just going to name this camera blur. If you don't know how to get this screen and this one down here, all you have to do is right click up here and hit Explore and Properties. And if this right click thing isn't working for you, you should be able to press Alt, like left Alt and X, and that should open up the Explorer thing, and left Control P to open up Properties. So left Alt X to open up the Explorer, left Control P to open up Properties. So first off, what we're gonna do is just gonna so we are going to define the player and the camera, and we are just going to set this equal to game get service players dot local player. I think we're gonna actually zoom this in just a little bit for you guys here. And under camera, we are going to do camera equals workspace dot current camera. So now we're going to move down 2 lines, create services section, and we're going to define run service as game colon get service run service. Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to create the blur effect. And set that equal to instance.new blur effect, and underneath of that we are going to add a rotation property, and this is just going to store the previous rotation. We're going to set that to vector3.new 0, 0, 0, or alternatively we could just leave it empty, which is what I'm going to do. But just know if you leave it empty, it's the same as setting all the values to equal 0. So I guess under here we're going to parent the blur effect. Blur effect.parent equals game.lighting. Or I guess we should just do game get service lighting. Okay. So now on line 17 we're gonna write function on render stepped, and then close parentheses, and we're just gonna type as the first argument dt, which stands for delta time, so how long it's been since the last frame okay, so this function is going to be running every single frame. dt, it just equals how long it's been since the last frame ran. So if it was a second since the last frame ran, dt would be equal to 1. So yeah, so we'll do local interpolation intensity equals intensity equals dt times 5. Actually, I think I'm gonna declare these values at the top as well. So underneath old rotation, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have smoothness equals 5. And then we're also going to do, oops, local intensity strength equals, I'm going to set that as 3. So instead of this 5 here, we're going to type smoothness. And this is just, so the interpolation intensity is, so the smoothness value we can change to determine how smooth the blur comes in and goes away. So I'll show you me editing with these values later, but that's really all you need to know. So we're going to do local rotation X, rotation Y, rotation Z equals camera.cframe colon to orientation. And if you're wondering how I'm just typing a couple letters and then it auto-completing for me, all I have to do is just say I do workspace. See how workspace is the top one on this thing? I can switch through them with arrows. All I have to do is make sure I'm hovering over workspace and I just press enter, or alternatively you can use tab. So that's very useful too. And we'll just comment this out. You don't need to do these green parts, but it does help tell you what these things do. It won't change the code at all. It's just there to inform you what happens. So this gets the X, oops, Y, and Z rotation of the camera. Okay, so local rotation equals vector3.new. We're going to type math.abs, which stands for absolute, and all that does is it turns any negative values we put into there into a positive value. So say we put in the number 1, it'll give us 1 back. If we put in the number -1, it will still return 1. So this is just so that if you rotate your camera a whole 300 or 180 degrees, it doesn't automatically snap to -180. Math.abs rotation y, comma math.abs open parenthesis close parenthesis rotation z. And this just constructs a new vector3 from the camera rotation values. Okay, and then we'll do camera delta equals 0, and you'll find out why we do this in a second, but right now we're going to do if rotation does not equal, which we do, this little symbol right here is the key above or under the escape key. It has a squiggly line. All we have to do to press that is do shift and then that key, and that's how we get that, and then we just do the equal sign. So that means it does not equal or is not equal to. So if I put in the number 0 and the number 1 in there, this will return true because it does not equal, because 0 does not equal 1. And then we're just going to do old rotation. Then camera delta equals, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, rotation minus old rotation dot magnitude divided by, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, dt times strength, which dt again was delta time. So now we're going to do old rotation equals rotation, and what this is doing is it's just basically saying that we're updating the old rotation now that we're done doing all this kind of maths. The reason I'm having it inside of the if statement is so that it doesn't have to update the value for old rotation every single frame. It just needs to do it when it knows that it changes. And we're just going to do local blur size equals blur effect dot size plus open parenthesis close parenthesis camera delta And camera delta is just or I guess I should do rotation delta, shouldn't I? Rotation delta, and you guys don't have to change this, but it just makes more sense. So rotation delta is by how much that the rotation changed since the last frame. So plus camera delta minus blur effect blur effect dot size times open parenthesis close parenthesis. We're going to do math dot clamp interpolation intensity comma 0 comma 1, and this is basically just returning us a value that is in between 0 and 1. So if interpolation intensity is equal to 0.1, it'll return 0.1. If it's equal to 2, it will bring us back 1 because we don't want it to go over 1 and we don't want it to go below 0. So that's all that means. So now we're going to do blur effect dot size equals blur size. Blur size. And the size of the blur effect is just basically says like how much the blur affects the or how much the blur affects the screen, like how blurry it is. We're just gonna type return true, and then below that we're gonna do run service :bind to render step, and then in quotes we're gonna type camera blur, which is just gonna be the name of our thing. Don't worry about it. I don't really know what it's called, but yeah. And then we're just going to type here enum.renderPriority.camera.value. So this means that every single time that the camera updates on the frame, it will also update this. In fact, we should do +1 on here just to make sure it does update after the camera. Then we're going to type on render step. Now, if you use autocomplete when you type this, it will put an open and closed parenthesis. You want to make sure you don't have that. So you want to keep it so that it says on render stepped and then just the closed parenthesis from this part right here. So we do not want to have these. We do not want to have these two parentheses right here. We want to make sure that those are not there. And this should be it. So we are going to go ahead and give it a test and see how it looks. I appear to not be loading in. That is curious. Do I have something? Okay, I'm gonna try that again. We'll get another shot. Okay, so there we go. We are finally in. So I'm not sure what caused that, but so as you can see, when we rotate, we will slowly start to blur, and as you can see, when we stop, we unblur. It relatively slow. So I'm going to show you what happens when I make, let's say, the strength a little bit higher when we increase the strength of the blur effect. Okay, so there is actually something I forgot to do. So strength actually lowers the intensity. So I really did not give it a proper name. I guess I should have labeled this maybe. Um, you know what? Honestly, we could just put this. We can put a new parenthesis outside of here, and then just do times strength. One thing we are going to want to do though is back inside this function where it's or back inside this thing where it says dt, we're just going to multiply this by, we'll say 5, just to make sure that the effect is not too intense. So we're going to play test this and see how it looks. Yeah, so as you can see, like now the slightest camera movement will create a massive blur on the screen, and we can change that here by going back to 3. I'm also going to change smoothness to um, let's say 2. So smoothness, the lower the number is, the more smooth it will be. So the slower that the effect will change. The higher the number, the faster the blur will change back. So as you can see here, it like slowly starts to fade in and out. If you can see that. We can even open up lighting and see this happening in real time. If we go to blur, you'll see it slowly starts to increase and then decrease, which is what we were looking for. Okay, so here's another example, and this time I set the strength very high, and I set the smoothness all the way down to 1. So this will be very, very smooth, as you can see when it comes back to normal, which doesn't look the best, but, you know, if you want it that way, you can have it. So that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Recommend me things in the description and what you would like me to program next. And I will see you next time.